Hello, my lovelies. Welcome to the Geek Suite. I'm your host, the one and only Kidner Bean, and today we're in my kitchen because we're going to be baking for today's Vlogmas 2019 video. Alrighty, my lovelies, for today's video we are going to be making some no-bake rum balls. And yes, we will be using rum, so these are not for children. Okay, so before we get started, you're going to need the following things to follow along. You will need 1 box of vanilla wafers, some confectioners or powdered sugar, baking cocoa, and either Karo corn syrup or you can substitute for honey. You will also need some nuts. I've used walnuts here. Most recipes call for them, but I've also done them with pecans and they're very tasty. So if you have a preferred nut of your choosing, go with that, or you can also omit the nuts completely. And of course, the most important ingredient in rum balls, rum. And as far as cooking utensils and ingredients goes, you're going to need preferably a food processor or an electric hand mixer. But if you don't, you can do these by hand. It will just take quite a while. For this recipe, you're also going to need a cookie sheet with either some wax paper or foil or just a series of plates so that way you can put the rum balls on them as you finish the process. So the first thing we're going to do, since I'm using a food processor, is we're going to combine all of our dry ingredients into the processor and give it a good blend to get everything nice and pulverized. So we're going to be taking 2.5 cups of our vanilla wafers, about a cup of your chosen nut, 1 cup of the powdered sugar or confectioner sugar, and 2 tablespoons plus 2 teaspoons of the baking cocoa. So we're going to go ahead and throw all those into the food processor and then give it a good zhuzh. Okay, so you can kind of see me if I stand right here. This is the blender food processor that we're going to be using. So I'm going to take this off and fill it with my goods. And now, usually when you get the recipe for rum balls, it says 2.5 cups, which is essentially the whole bag, and usually what I just do is dump the whole bag of cookies in there. But since this is for YouTube, I'm going to go ahead and follow the recipe and see how this goes. Since there's no dehydrated milk in it, but you can also use, if you have Nesquik or Hershey's hot cocoa Instamix at home, you're welcome to substitute that. It gives it a little bit more sweetness and a little bit more fuller flavor, but it's not something that I choose to use. Okay, so now we're ready to blend. Okay, and now we've turned it on, and I'm going to hit blend instead of crush, because crush is for ice. much work if you're using a food processor or a blender. It really only needs a few seconds. And now we're going to add the wet ingredients. And you can simply add the wet ingredients into the food processor and have it mix again. But for me personally, that requires a lot of excess cleanup, and it's hard to then scoop the finalized product out of the little blender container here. So I'm going to transfer all of this into a medium-sized mixing bowl. All right, so I have my mixing bowl. Time to transfer. Oh no. And that is why you unplug it before you start removing parts, because I just dropped the blades, which could be dangerous to fish out if this were all still plugged in. Now, be sure to keep out the confectioner sugar and the cocoa powder, as we're going to be rolling the balls in them later as a final coating. Okay, now the standard recipe calls for a 1/4 cup rum and 2 cups of water, not 2 cups, 2 tablespoons of water, but I always just use extra rum because I like my rum balls to be a little bit extra boozy, but that's just me. So if you want to go ahead and do the not as boozy alternative, it's a 1/4 cup of rum and 2 tablespoons of water, but you can also up that if you were doing like I normally do, where you just throw in the whole box of vanilla wafers. You can up that to 1/2 cup of rum instead of a 1/4 cup of rum to get the right consistency. Okay, so for our wet ingredients, as I said, we're adding, looking at the recipe, a 1/4 cup of rum, 3 tablespoons of either honey or the Karo corn syrup, and 2 tablespoons of either water or additional rum. All right, let's get started. Probably do this. Okay, hopefully you can see me a little better as we add our wet ingredients. And just to get in here for a moment, most recipes do call for a little bit of vanilla extract, but I have bought vanilla flavored corn syrup, so we're not adding that to this recipe. And if you wanted to substitute either the honey for the Karo syrup, you can also substitute molasses, is another good one, but it may make them a little extra sweet. And so now I'm going to take my witchy mixing spatula and I'm going to get all this mixed together, and then we're going to be hand rolling them into balls and dipping them in either cocoa powder or confectioner sugar. Another popular thing to dip them or roll them in is shredded coconut or coconut sugar if you have that available. Okay, so as far as consistency goes, it shouldn't be fully gooey and sticking together like cookie dough. It should just sort of be coming together almost like a pie crust if you've ever made your own pie crust from scratch. So mine looks like this. Everything's nice and coated and it's just sort of sticking together, but you can see that it's starting to crumble away. And that's what we want. So we're going to take this and then I'm going to move to the other side of the kitchen where we start rolling them out and putting them onto cookie sheets. Okay, my lovelies, so now we're down to the final portion of this baking video for Vlogmas. So what I've done is I've taken a regular cookie sheet and lined it with wax paper since these do get sticky, and I've got 2 little bowls, one filled with powdered sugar. You can also use brown sugar as a way to dust them for a nice little finish, and I've also done some of the baking cocoa, which I got a little overzealous with, but that's okay. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to reach into our bowl of rum ball dough, and we're going to be making 1-inch balls. So we're going to roll them by hand, dip them in your choice of either the powdered sugar or the cocoa, and then we're going to let them dry on this cookie sheet. And when they're finished, which is basically the second you're done dusting them, when you want to store them, you should use a Tupperware or other airtight sealed container. And again, remember, my lovelies, these are not being baked, so the alcohol that's in them means these are not for children's. Okay, let's get started. Couple that mine are a little bit too sticky, and if that happens for you, you can just add more crushed vanilla wafers or more powdered sugar or more baking cocoa to sort of thicken it up. So for me, I'm going to be doing the baking cocoa. Okay, back to rolling rum balls. I've made 9 lovely rum balls. And just a heads up, when you are storing these, if you want to dust them again in the powdered sugar for the white ones, you will want to dust those again. As you can already see with this little topmost one, it starts to absorb it and you can't tell that it's been dusted. So just for aesthetics, you can re-roll them when you're ready to serve again. Alrighty, my lovelies, that wasn't too much of a disaster. If you liked baking with me, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, and be sure to hit subscribe and ring that notification bell. Also, don't forget we are having our Vlogmas 2019 Patreon special, where all of my lovelies who sign up for Patreon or upgrade their level between now and December 20th, in addition to your tier benefits, you will receive a handwritten Christmas or holiday card of your choosing from me, the Kidner Bean. Alrighty, my lovelies, thank you so much for baking with me in our no-bake video. I will see you all tomorrow.